I think students who are really struggling with math, they feel defeated. They feel, first of all, they feel that they're never going to be able to fill those gaps.
Our initial data that we look at is our district-wide STAR assessment. And from there, if they had within a certain percentile range, we would give them the curriculum-based placement assessment, and that would tell us what level of alternate math that they would go into.
We kind of had what was talked about as a pathway, but was more like a track because it was nearly impossible for students to get out of it once they were in it.
The morale was not there for students and for staff. Just not seeing the movement. We did see a lot of inequities in the program. Kids coming in from other districts not meeting the requirements of their own math. And of course they're going to test into that. We were testing the knowledge versus the skill level.
First of all, there was too much disparity. There was way too much of a range between the kids who were struggling with basic number concepts versus kids that could handle much bigger fractions or least common denominator.
So it was hard to get them excited for math. It was hard to get them to do anything really. Even if we were covering core stuff, they didn't want to do it. They were like, oh, it doesn't even matter. Like, I'm never gonna leave this class. I'm always gonna stay in this one track. And when I go to high school, they still have the same classes. So they were really, really upset a lot of the time.
Kids who are struggling in math, often they don't want to be perceived as the one that can't handle it. They see themselves as not math people.
The 8th graders wanted so badly to get out of it so that they could go into the core class in high school. And even some that I had recommended move into the core class, we just weren't able to kind of fill the holes that they had, because if I could work one-on-one with each one of those students, it would have been totally different, but having them all in one class and trying to teach whole group and small group, it just wasn't enough. There just wasn't enough time.
Very few kids were exited. It was laid out that they had to complete all 3 levels to move, and even with that, there was no guarantee that they had the skills to be successful.
Through our conversations, all of us were kind of on the same page. All of the teachers, the intervention teachers, were kind of on the same page that we're just trying to do too much in one class, and so we needed to be able to split them up somehow.
We took all the data from what we had previously and went right ahead and did the assessments. So we did assessments on quite a few kids. I'm talking like 50 to 60 kids. I think that's well worth the effort to know what you have, and then you can start building from there, and then have that team meet regularly and readjust as you move through your transitions and building the pathways.
The model came out of those conversations and determining we have to somehow make this work so that we can split these students up, not focus on grade level, focus more on skill deficits and skill strengths, and group them that way.
In high school, kids are grouped by what their skill level is. In college, they're grouped by what their skill level is. In any job situation. So there really isn't any justification for us not to start this process now.
So we have assessments that we do with students that are based on the AVMR model, and within that they're given scores. They're called constructs.
These assessments are super reliable, and they just follow the kid through.
Our lower level would be those structuring numbers of 0, 1, 2, and majority of their class time would be spent building upon those skills and providing a little access to core.
In the 3B model, we're definitely doing work around mindset. So we have what we call a Mindful Monday, and this is where we're using a course that was created by Stanford to address how everyone can learn math.
We're challenging the myths and the ideas that you can be a math person or not a math person, whether you have fixed or a growth mindset, whether you are allowed to guess in math. The kids kind of need to know that. They think that it's so structured and that they need a specific idea or they need to come up with a specific answer. If they get it right, great, but if they don't, that's okay too, because at least they're talking about math, they're talking about their reasons, they're talking about their strategies, and that matters.
Students who are scoring between 3 and 5 are going to be in our higher intervention classroom.
They're doing core activities that are happening in the core math class and being supported by the AVMR activities, so we have a lot of application and kids can see the connection.
My current strategy is working with like personalized learning and a little bit of AVMR, but beforehand it was a hot mess.
Part of why this is working is because in middle school, I think there's a resistance to group 6th grade with 8th grade. And there's reasons for that. There's a pretty big difference between a 6th grader and an 8th grader, so I get that. But surprisingly, we really haven't had, I thought maybe the kids would kind of push back on that, but they haven't at all. And I think it's because they recognize that they're where they need to be.
My 6th graders are doing whatever core they need to do. Sometimes they even ask the 7th graders for help.
Students who are 4s and 5s across the board are going to be able to, and are at the same pace and place as their core counterpart, are going to move into their core classroom with that supplemental time every other day where they're getting some additional support until they're ready to just be in core.
He was so proud of himself. His face just lit up when I was like, hey, you're catching up to core. You are very proficient in everything in here. I'm gonna go talk to your core teacher, your team teacher, and see like if you can move out. And I've never seen him smile so big. When he went to the core class, he knew the stuff that they were working on. So he was super excited to go in there and show off his little skills.
Students can move back and forth if they need to. So these classes are held simultaneously. We have a 3A at the same time as a 3B, so that students can, if they're improving dramatically, they can move into the 3A, but if they're really struggling and having a hard time in the 3A, they can move back to 3B without it being an issue with scheduling. And this has allowed for kind of a smooth exit from the intervention pathway. It really is truly more of a pathway than a track. And we're seeing, I think, there's still a lot of work to do, but we're seeing some really profound successes in a very short period of time. We've only been doing it for a quarter. And a lot of things are just way better for the teachers, but more specifically for the students.
So since we've started this with the kids that were placed into the program, we are seeing them progress. Moving from one level to a higher level and ultimately into a tier 2 and into a core placement and finding success there.
Initially, I knew that it was going to be beneficial when behavior challenges were gone within the first week. And I knew that I could actually teach the students because I didn't have to manage behaviors the whole time.
I can't tell you a day where I was just like, I don't want to come back. I like it a lot now. It's nice, it's relaxing. The kids, once you get the routine down, the kids know what to do and they just go and do it.
And then being able to focus in on exactly what that group of students needed, and for the students themselves to recognize this is where I'm at, like I'm being taught where I'm at. It just, I feel like opened a new world to these kids to realize that there's something for them in it, that they can learn it.
When my first kid transitioned out, we had a little party and he was so proud and everyone else was so proud of him too. Like no one was upset. It worked. He proved that if you're doing the work, if you're coming in and doing everything, like you can transition out. And I hate seeing my kids go, but they're all like understanding there is an end goal. They're not stuck in this classroom like previous years, and so they're trying really hard now.
We've gone through a lot of changes in the past year and a half, 2 years. And now we just talk like we are feeling comfortable, like, oh, think back to 2 years ago, like how are we gonna ever do this? And here we are going, we're feeling really good about where we're at.
I've been here 2 years. We've taught 4 different ways. This semester is the first semester where I have my feet underneath me now. I can take a breath. I can enjoy my job. I can enjoy the kids.
We've got a narrower focus on what we're teaching, which helps a lot.
I feel like the biggest takeaway is that students are really taking ownership of their own learning. They're recognizing that they can learn. They're recognizing that they have skills that they can build upon. They're recognizing that trying is more important than getting things right. And in that process, they're actually getting things right.
They know specifically what skills they need, and they can see the progression in their own classrooms, what they need to accomplish, and they're excited about it.
They're recognizing that there's a way forward for them, that they don't have to be stuck in a track that they're in for the remainder of their educational career, that there's a way for them to get to classes that their peers are in. They're learning, that they're actually learning things, and they're getting excited about math in a way that I don't know if they've ever done before.
I have the best relationship with my kids. They are happy to come to me for anything. They're not discouraged anymore. They like coming to math. They want to work hard to get out of math and go to regular core math and be with all of their other peers, but they're also not afraid to come into my classroom. They're not ashamed to come into the classroom because we're working on core, we're working on skills that they need.
They're having more fun. They are willing to guess. They're willing to, shout out an answer, and that is exciting. So it's fun to be part of a classroom where they're willing to venture out there, and often they get it wrong. And I say, oh, so close, but it's good that they keep guessing. They're engaged.
We maybe had 3 students total move into core, and just within the last quarter, we've had 8 students move into core, having made the changes we've made. But really for me, it's about quality, and the students are engaged in their learning. They come to class ready to learn. They're trying, they're putting forth effort, they're asking great questions, they're speaking up, they're guessing, and most of these kids weren't doing any of that before.
I enjoy my job a lot more. It's less behaviors with my kids, and all of my kids are behavior kids.
It just makes my job so much easier because I don't have to worry about the behavior challenges. I can come in every day and know that the students are ready to work, they're excited to work. They're really taking ownership of their education, and it's a beautiful thing.